And good morning, friends. Welcome to the bright side. I am Pharmacist Ben. Thanks for joining us. Lines open, 844-236-6010. If you have questions about health, nutrition, prescription drugs, if you want to wean yourself off your meds and get on a good nutritional supplement program, we're here for you, 844-236-6010. If you have a comment or success story you'd like to share, likewise, we are here for you, 844-236-6010. We want to hear what you have to say, what you have to say about all the craziness that's going on in the world today, what you have to say about health, nutrition, or the longevity supplements. Of course, if you have a success story you'd like to share, we love hearing those. Or if you just want to contribute to the conversation, 844-236-6010 is our number on the bright side. If you want to purchase longevity products, the ones I take and the ones I recommend, please go to brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, or criticalhealthnews.com. You can purchase longevity products right off the website. You can also sign up to join the Brightside Ben team off the website as well. For a one-time $30 fee, you can be in business for yourself. Now there's no better time than today to sign up to join the Brightside Ben team and start yourself a longevity business. Become financially independent. Nobody's job is safe. If you're working for the man, nobody's job is safe in this crazy time when all our economic verities and economic truths are turned upside down. You can't count on anybody else. That's the beauty of the longevity business opportunity. It allows you to count on yourself, which is the only place you should be counting on anyway. When it comes to your financial health, when it comes to your physical health as well. Longevity is about physical independence. It's about financial independence. The longevity business opportunity is something everybody needs to at least look into. Call 866-735-2470 for more information, or hit the Join the Team Now link at brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, or criticalhealthnews.com. And then don't forget to take a look at our Truth Skin Health products at truthtreatments.com. Never any preservatives, fragrances, fillers, waxes, emulsifiers, nothing your skin doesn't need or doesn't want in any of our Truth Skin Health products. We are turning skincare on its head. Do you know the skincare business, as we know it today, the modern skincare business is a vestige of 1800s technology. That's when the modern skincare business was born, in the middle of the 1800s, and we haven't changed since. There's never been a disruption in skincare, and the skincare products you're using today are basically the same things your grandmother and great-grandmother and great-great-grandmother did. Even though we're living in the 21st century quantum age, we're still operating in the world of skincare, and the world of healthcare in general, on chemical truths, biochemical truths that were founded in the late 19th century. The time has come for a new way of looking at skin health, a new way of looking at skincare. That's what Truth Skin Health is all about. Truthtreatments.com, truthtreatments.com. All right, 844-236-6010 is our number. We've got John Putulil, MD, Dr. John Putulil, I think that's how he says his name. Coming up the bottom of the hour, he's a pediatrician and an allergist. He's got his medical degree from the University of Kerala in India, and he's going to talk to us today about diabetes, specifically about COVID-19 and diabetes. I have been saying diabetes and blood sugar issues are a core factor when it comes to how healthy or not healthy we are. It's the second point on the triangle of disease: the digestive system, the blood sugar system, and the stress management system. And when we say diabetes, that's kind of a misleading term, because diabetes is an official diagnosis, but you don't have to have diabetes to be dealing with the negative health impacts of messed up blood sugar. Dysglycemia is a more accurate term than diabetes. Diabetes is a diagnosis. Dysglycemia is a biochemical fact. And as I've been saying for years, your diagnosis doesn't matter. Our health is not about, or lack thereof, is not about diagnoses. Doctors hate when anybody diagnoses. In fact, it's illegal for anybody to diagnose. That's the doctor's world, diagnosis. But biochemistry, nobody owns that. No doctor on the planet owns biochemistry. In fact, the medical model is pretty darn ignorant when it comes to biochemistry. The medical model is great at dealing with clinical chemistry. It's great at lowering blood pressure scores and lowering cholesterol levels and raising your TSH or whatever, or lowering your TSH, I should say, raising your thyroid hormone levels, and it can work with numbers. That's what diagnostics and that's what functional medicine and that's what clinical chemistry is all about. It's about numbers, but health is not numbers. We're not numbers. We're not statistics. We're human beings, and while numbers don't really tell us what our body is doing or what our body is up to, biochemical pathways do. The biochemical pathways manifest themselves in symptomology. A good healthcare professional will backtrack symptomology to biochemical pathways. if you're dealing with weight gain around your middle, just one example, if you're dealing with weight gain around the middle and your blood sugar scores are normal, within normal ranges, who cares? You got messed up blood sugar, and it's going to affect your heart, and it's going to affect your skin, and it's ultimately going to affect your brain, and it's ultimately going to affect your longevity, regardless of what your diabetes score is or your blood sugar score is. Dysglycemia is the number one cause of death and destruction in terms of the human body. Number one. According to medical statistics, cancer is the number one. Heart disease is the number one cause of death. Cancer is number two. Diabetes is number three. But you know what? Heart disease is secondary to dysglycemia. Cancer is secondary to dysglycemia. That means that dysglycemia, messed up blood sugar, is the number one cause of a shortened life. It's the number one cause of amputations. It's the number one cause of blindness. If you have any chronic long-term health challenges, backtrack it to the blood sugar system. Before that, the digestive system. This is how simple health is, people. We've been led to believe that it's over our heads. It is not over our heads. We've been led to believe that it's too much for us to understand, and that all we can do is trust the medical authorities. Yes, trust the medical authorities. How well has that worked out for us? We've got lots of medical authorities. We've got lots of devices. We got lots of drugs. We got lots of diagnoses. We got lots of health care. We got lots of health insurance, and we're sicker than ever before. The fact of the matter is our biochemistry is our business. The fact of the matter is the basics of biochemistry is not complex, and it's not complicated. Yesterday there was an article that came out from, this is from Medscape Medical News. Negative thinking tied to cognitive decline and Alzheimer's pathology. Something as simple as how we think is going to affect our brain. If you have cognitive decline issues and you go to the doctor and you're in your 70s, your 60s or 70s or 80s, there's nothing they can do. You think there's a drug you can take that'll reverse your Alzheimer's or your cognitive decline? No. But when we understand the link between negative thinking and cognitive decline, well, what does that mean? That means we can take control of our brain's health on our own without our doctors. Today I did my moment of truth on niacin, vitamin B3. Niacin turns on a family of genes and proteins called the sirtuins, S-I-R-T-U-I-N-S. Have you heard of the sirtuins? Most people haven't. We've only known about the sirtuins for a couple of decades or so, and they're major anti-aging genes and proteins. And they're activated almost instantly by a derivative of vitamin B3. If you're not supplementing with vitamin B3, there's a really good chance that you're going to be deficient. Vitamin B3 is also known as niacin. That's the ultimate niacin from longevity. Health is simple, people. We don't need authorities. We got to trust ourselves, and we got to do the work ourselves. All right, I'm Pharmacist Ben. 844-236-6010 is our number. You're listening to The Bright Side. We'll be back after this. Back on The Bright Side. I'm Pharmacist Ben. 844-236-6010 is our number. All our lines open. All our lines are open. If you have questions about anything we're speaking about here today, health, nutrition, prescription drugs, if you want to wean yourself off your meds and get on a good nutritional supplement program, if you've used our Truth Skin Health products, if you've got questions, or if you have success stories you'd like to share, especially about our Truth Skin Health products, which are all available at truthtreatments.com. We'd love to hear from you. Longevity products can be purchased at brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, or criticalhealthnews.com. It's a whole bunch of new longevity products, which I haven't really talked about yet. One of my favorite of the new products is called the Ultimate Microbiome, which is based on postbiotic technology. Postbiotics. We haven't really mentioned too much about postbiotics. Postbiotics are molecules or biochemicals or chemicals that are made by bacteria, made by good bacteria, chief among which are the good fats, or is the good fat butyric acid. In general, short-chain fatty acids. Long-chain fatty acids are your essential fatty acids and most dietary fats. Medium-chain fatty acids are found in coconut oil and are really important for folks who have digestive problems. And then there's the short-chain fatty acids. One in particular is called butyric acid. Butter is one of nature's finest sources of butyric acid. In fact, the name butter comes from butyric acid. Butyric acid plays a major major role in intestinal health. Anybody who's dealing with colon problems or digestive problems, God forbid colon cancer, would do well to make sure that they're getting enough butyric acid, either from dietary sources like butter or also by helping your body make butyric acid with probiotics and fiber. Probiotics plus fiber yields butyric acid in the colon. Butyric acid also plays a role in brain health. This is one of the major connections between the digestive system and the brain, the so-called gut-brain axis. Butyric acid, which is made in the digestive system, goes right up to the brain, where it acts as an antidepressant, where it acts as a satiety inducer. That is, it induces satisfaction, so you don't eat as much. There's a great form of butyric acid, or a derivative of butyric acid, called GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid, which acts like a relaxing substance. Back in the day, before it became illegal, there was a substance called GHB. Some of you may have heard of it. GHB is a form of butyric acid or butyrate that had incredible sleep-promoting effects. Actually, GHB was so cool because it was used by bodybuilders because it helped bodybuilders build muscle. It was an incredible aphrodisiac and libido enhancer. And it was also a wonderful anti-insomniac, great sleeping medicine. It was sleeping supplement, I should say. It was completely non-toxic because it was made by the body. It was metabolized right away. There was no toxicity, no side effects, except it just made you a little bit drowsy. It was really the perfect drug, except it wasn't a drug. It was a biochemical, GHB, gamma hydroxybutyrate, technically it was called. Imagine this, completely non-toxic. It was an aphrodisiac and a libido enhancer. It was great for bodybuilders, and it helped you sleep. Sounds perfect, right? Well, of course, it was too perfect. That's why it's illegal. In any case, it was a derivative of butyrate. You can make your own GHB and GABA and butyric acid by using fiber and probiotics. The ultimate microbiome contains the building blocks or the precursors for helping the body make butyric acid. If you're dealing with any digestive health issues, butyric acid is something you want to think about. So all these wonderful strategies that we can use. We're going to talk to Dr. John Puttulil at the bottom of the hour about diabetes and COVID. Most of you guys know, if you've been listening to this program, that COVID and diabetes are related, and that if you have diabetes, you're going to be at higher risk, or dysglycemia, I should say. You're going to be at higher risk for becoming symptomatic if you get infected. And remember, it's not the infections that count, even though you keep hearing about infections. Infections don't matter. The word infection is really scary to people. That's why you hear it on the news all the time. That's why the medical model wants us to think infection, because it's really scary. And then we'll have to jump. We'll have to jump when the medical model says jump, because you're infected. You might be infected. If people are infected, they have to stay in the house for 2 weeks. It's not the infection that matters. It's the symptoms that matter, and it's the disease that matters. And infection doesn't mean disease. Infection doesn't mean symptoms for most people. Unfortunately, if you're dysglycemic, if you got messed up blood sugar, the chances are pretty good that you're going to be symptomatic, and the chances are pretty good that you're going to be sick, especially if you're older, especially if you've got a compromised immune system. The trick to dealing with infections, the trick to dealing with microbial attacks, whether they're bacterial, fungal, or viral, whatever, is to strengthen your body, not to hide in the house, not to hide behind a mask. This is idiocy, pure idiocy that's being perpetuated by the idiots who represent the medical model. It's pure idiocy. Take care of yourself. Don't eat McDonald's. Supplement, especially with vitamin B3, by the way, which in addition to being important for cognitive health and in addition to being important for anti-aging, is also important for blood sugar. Vitamin B3 is part of what's called the glucose tolerance complex, or glucose tolerance factor, the GTF, which is made up of chromium and vitamin B3, supported by alpha lipoic acid, by the way. Selenium and sulfur also help. All of these are great nutrients for helping protect your body from the ravages of excess blood sugar. Excess blood sugar will suppress your immune system. As soon as you eat sugar, by the way, your immune system functioning begins to become affected. As soon as we ingest sugar, sugar is the bad guy. Sugar is the enemy. Of course, you do need a little bit of glucose, but you need very, very little. All right. Also for cognitive issues, the B vitamins in general, not just niacin, vitamin B12 and folate, that's because of the link between homocysteine and cognitive decline issues. As we get older, this toxic chemical homocysteine builds up, and lowering your homocysteine levels is one of the most important things you can do to keep yourself healthy and youthful as the aging process kicks in, as we get older. Chronological aging is going to happen, but biological aging can be slowed down. Chronological aging can't be slowed down. Time goes on, but biological aging doesn't have to match chronological aging. The way you slow down biological aging, even if the years go by, is by making sure you're taking care of yourself, especially around blood sugar issues, especially around supplementing with vitamin B3, with all the B vitamins, with your Beyond Tangy Tangerine. And oh, by the way, I was going to talk today about intermittent fasting. It turns out that intermittent fasting is also a great strategy for boosting the immune system. We'll do that tomorrow. John Putalil is coming up at the bottom of the hour. We're going to talk about COVID and diabetes. We'll take your phone calls, 844-236-6010, and say good morning to our friend Shauna in Idaho. Good morning, Shauna. What's going on?
Good morning. I have heard about these bands that put restriction on your muscles, and it's supposed to help generate more HGH hormone to come through your body. Is that? I'm not curious what you think. I'm like, are we born with a certain amount, and then
no, you can
it's fine, but
you can support your HGH levels. One of the best things you could do is intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting and calorie restriction, for that matter, especially keeping your carbs down. Ketogenic diet is a great way to boost HGH levels. And then there's nutrients you can use. Arginine is one of the all-time great boosters of HGH. Everybody should be using arginine. That's a supplement. It's hard to find in food. I call it super amino acid. It's probably the most powerful of the amino acids, arguably.
Have you heard of these bands that they're using?
Are you talking about these rubber band things that you use for exercise?
Yeah, well, no,
they're awesome.
Around the muscles.
I haven't heard of those, but I have. I'm going to talk about those bands tomorrow, the exercise bands. They are so awesome. I've been using them now for 6 months. They're really, and I was a gym rat for many years. Shauna, I'm sorry, we got to go, but I'll address that tomorrow on the bright side. Thanks for listening. Thanks for calling. John Putalil coming up at the bottom of the hour. We are back on the bright side. I'm Pharmacist Ben, and we're on the air Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 Pacific, 10 to 11 Central Time, 24/7 at the archive page, brightsideben.com. Also, benfuchsarchives.com. We have a search engine up. Thank you to Peter in the UK for setting that up. You can purchase longevity products at brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, or criticalhealthnews.com. You got news stories, blog posts, and lots of videos and good health information at criticalhealthnews.com, brightsideben.com, and pharmacistben.com. And don't forget to take a look at our Truth Skin Health products, all formulated in my compounding pharmacy for treating burns and wounds and traumas and pre- and post-surgical, preventing pre- and post-surgical scarring, post-surgical scarring. TruthTreatments.com, never any preservatives, fragrances, fillers, waxes, emulsifiers, water, silicone, oil, nothing your skin doesn't need or doesn't want in any of my pharmacist-formulated Truth Skin Health products. TruthTreatments.com, TruthTreatments.com. All right, I am looking forward to speaking to our guest, Dr. John Putalil. He's a pediatrician and an allergist and an author. He specializes in hunger and satiation, something we talk about in this program a lot, weight loss, diabetes, as well as the senses of taste and smell. He's been published in Physiology and Behavior, Neuroscience and Biobehavioral Reviews, Journal of Women's Health, Journal of Applied Research and Nutrition, Nutritional Neuroscience, and he's been quoted in consumer magazines like Women's Day, Fitness, Redbook, and Women's World. He speaks on diabetes and cancer. We've said so many times that dysglycemia, messed up blood sugar, whether you call it diabetes or not, is the number one cause of disease and death and health misery. Please welcome to the bright side, Dr. John Putalil. Hey, Doc.
Hi, Ben. I thank you for having me, and I thank our listeners.
Thank you so much for being here. Did I say your name right, Putalil?
Yes, you did. You did better than most people do.
Okay, good.
Just phonetically correct.
It's a lot of consonants and a lot of all put together there. Okay, so Dr. John, we talk a lot about dysglycemia on this program, and we distinguish diabetes from dysglycemia. A lot of people will say, oh, I had my blood sugar tested and it was just fine and just normal, but they've got all the signs of messed up blood sugar. So we make that distinction a lot, and we always say that the immune system and the blood sugar system are linked. Why don't you tell us about your experience as a physician with dysglycemia or diabetes and how it's related to infection, microbial, bacterial, fungal, or viral?
Very, very important question in this stage of our coronavirus pandemic. So it is a good thing to review why is diabetes or high glucose level is critical in people, especially as we get older. As you get older, you are at a higher risk of catching an infection. Whether it is, and the infection can be generally classified into bacterial infection and viral infection. And our immune system is ready to handle that, but because it knows anything that is coming from outside. So let's back up at the immune system that we have from day one of our lives. The immune system has to recognize what is not normal, what is an invader, what is an infective agent. For that, they need to know, the immune system needs to know what is normal. It needs to know a normal white cell, a normal red cell, normal pancreatic islet cell. Because if they don't, then they can attack our own body and we can have an autoimmune disease. So the immune system first recognizes the invader, which is the germ. Then there is a battle or a struggle going on the one side. The germ is trying to multiply. On the other side, the immune system is trying to kill the germ. So now the question is, how is the environment? When you have every germ, every cell, let's take a bacteria first because it's a whole cell. That cell needs two things in general terms to multiply. One is the energy. Second is a promoter to cause the multiplication. And every cell can use glucose to extract energy, just like any other normal body cell. So in an environment where the glucose is higher in concentration, the bacteria multiplies faster. This is why people with type 2 diabetes or any elevation of blood glucose, it doesn't matter how you classify it, the bacteria will multiply faster. And you can get into trouble. Now, when it comes to virus, it's an interesting thing because what is a virus? Virus is not a whole cell. It is a protein or a segment protein with life force, but it cannot multiply by itself. It has to take over the machinery of a cell and use the cell's machinery to make copies of itself. So if you take COVID or any other viral infections, as we get older, we are more likely to get more infections. But people, just because we have diabetes, that doesn't mean you are more likely to get infection. But once the virus gets into the body, then the multiplication is faster.
Hang on, Doc, just 1 second. A couple things come to mind. First of all, you're making a very important distinction between infection and symptoms. In other words, just because you're infected doesn't mean you're going to be diseased. And this is very relevant because the news, the New York Times, the doctors, the medical model who, lead us astray all the time, talk about infections, but they don't talk about the distinction between infections and disease. Whereas if they did, we would understand that just because you're infected doesn't mean you can't do anything about it. In other words, you have some control over whether you become diseased after you're infected. Things like controlling your sugar. And that's a very important point.
The immune system is the key here. 80% of the people who get infected with coronavirus, for example, don't have any symptoms or very mild symptoms, and they don't care about it. They don't need to. Of the 20%, only 2% will become extremely sick.
So why are we freaking out as a culture then, Doc? It doesn't seem like that's. It seems like for 2% of the culture, and they can be correct, they can be fixed just by taking care of their health. Why are we freaking out as a society over this?
The problem here is if you compare this with the influenza pandemic, the influenza, the incubation period is about 5 to 7 days. So you have symptoms. When you have symptoms, you are more careful, and the rate of spread is you can control it. Whereas with the coronavirus, the incubation period is 14 days, and even during that time, you can spread it to somebody else. So you may be asymptomatic or you may be even pre-symptomatic. But so the rate of spread is much faster. And once you get it, again, those who are older will develop it faster, or those who have high blood sugar will develop it more severe. The rate of death is 10 times more, or 1 in 10 corona patients with type 2 diabetes will die within first 7 days of hospitalization. And that is the key here, how fast it spreads. So the hospitals will become,
overrun.
They become saturated with patients. They cannot handle. Our healthcare system cannot handle the influx of patients at a fast.
Doc, hang on. We got to take a commercial break. When we come back, I want to talk about some things we could do to lower blood sugar to protect ourselves from becoming symptomatic. I'm Pharmacist Ben. We're talking to Dr. John Putalil. You're listening to The Bright Side. We'll be back right after this. Okay, we're back on The Bright Side talking to John Putalil, MD, pediatrician and allergist and author. Eat, Chew, Live, 4 Revolutionary Ideas to Prevent Diabetes, Lose Weight, and Enjoy Food is one of his books. He writes a lot about diabetes as well as cancer. Hey, Doc, you said a couple interesting things. I want to get into some of the strategies people can use to lower blood sugar and support immunity, but you said a couple of interesting things that got my attention. You talked about bacteria growing in response to elevated blood sugar, like all cells, and that kind of reminds me of cancer. Is there a relationship between microbial infection and cancer?
It is not. The question is so critical and so interesting. I'm glad you thought about that, because most people don't think like that. If you think about cancer, what is it? Ordinarily, the cell can. Every cell division happens. The cell that is dividing is called a stem cell. When you get a cut on your skin, there is a wound. How does that wound heal? The cell that is exposed send a message, and the gene in charge of that cell will say, okay, we need new cells, and it starts the multiplication process. So the signal for multiplication comes from outside. There is a need. It is need-based. Whereas the stem cell at the bottom of the skin that divides as a signal, what's called the internal signal. It can divide into 2 when, again, based on the need, and then one is kept as a stem cell, the other becomes the skin cell, and the wound is healed. But the stem cell is still there, but to produce new cells later on for whatever damage that's happened, it is to replace cells or grow an organ, the stem cells are there. Now, this stem cell, if it starts dividing on its own, then you have cancer. So in that respect, it is very similar to a bacteria. The bacteria divides on its own. So they have similarity between a bacterial infection and a cancer growth.
Interesting. Is sugar a food source, or is it actually a signal?
No, the sugar in any division like that, as I mentioned earlier, it needs energy. And every cell, every living cell can use glucose to produce ATP, which is the adenosine triphosphate. That's the energy unit, just like our electron. The cell produces that to use to divide. So cancer cells needs, this is why people who have type 2 diabetes or diabetes have 50% higher chance of developing pancreatic cancer, liver cancer, colon cancer, endometrial cancer, compared to those who don't have glucose, who don't have diabetes. So, in addition to that, there is an interesting point. The cell needs workers to construct the whole cell wall and internal organs, and these workers are called enzymes. And the enzymes need to be activated. And you know who activates these enzymes? Insulin. Insulin is an anabolic hormone. It promotes the multiplication or activity of all cells. Insulin does not make a value judgment. Insulin does not say, oh, you cannot multiply because you are a cancer cell or the other cell is needed. Insulin doesn't know that. It promotes the work or activity of any cell. So if you have glucose, if you have insulin, your cancer cells can multiply faster, your bacteria can multiply faster.
So even if your sugar is normal but your insulin is high, you could have a problem.
The problem then is, it's an very interesting question. Soon after a meal, your blood sugar goes up. When you say your blood sugar level is normal, you're talking about the baseline. But what happens after a meal? Immediately after a meal, your blood sugar goes up before the insulin instructs us or helps the cell to take in glucose. When glucose is outside the cell has no receptor to know glucose is outside. That, somebody has to ring the bell for the cell to know there is glucose outside. And that ringing comes from insulin, not glucose.
Okay,
insulin is the bell ringer to tell the cell. Insulin does not get inside the cell, but it
opens the garage door.
Glucose outside.
It's the garage.
You have to keep in mind this. This is a very important point for those who are using insulin. When you inject insulin, your blood sugar goes down. Have you ever thought about where does that sugar go?
Where does it go? It gets excreted.
No,
it gets stored as fat.
Most people think it goes off to the body. It cannot. You just your urine because
it gets stored as fat.
Yes, and where is that fat going to? It goes into your arteries. It blocks the blood vessels. This is why when you have an infection, the immune system cannot go to the site of infection fast enough. Because the blockage of the blood vessels. Why do you get foot infections? Why do you get amputations?
The insulin can't. The immune system can't make it to the infection because the clogged blood vessels.
You got it.
So hang on, Doc. So all those people who are talking about getting stents and chelation therapy and various strategies for getting rid of the fat, they should be looking at blood sugar and insulin.
The question is, where is that fat coming from? The fat is coming from your own liver. What is the liver using as raw material to produce fat?
Sugar.
Glucose, under the instruction from insulin. So if you don't put that glucose into your body, if you don't put a food that will be absorbed into the body as glucose in your mouth, do you need insulin?
No.
That is how to control diabetes.
So calorie restriction, intermittent fasting, ketogenic diet, those kinds of strategies? Each
person is different. Whatever you feel like, as long as you reduce the intake of glucose-producing food. And in modern age, in the past, say 100 years ago, the amount of food energy that a person consumed from complex carbohydrate like grains was less than 35%. Now, in developed countries, that is 50% of the daily total energy intake. In developing countries, it is 70%. Now, you can understand why type 2 diabetes is increasing all around the world, and pretty soon we will have 500 million people with type 2 diabetes in a matter of 10 years.
But it's not just diabetes. It's also cancer. It's also heart disease. It's also infections, amputations, blindness. Pretty much the cause of all our health misery, or at least the major cause of all our health misery, is how we eat and then the glucose and the insulin, correct?
Exactly. That is precisely the point that you can understand with your background. The question is, how do we tell ordinary people?
How?
And I'm glad that you are there to teach them, to let them know. What they do with that information is up to the patient or up to the people. Yet, it is our duty to let them know that they are in charge of their own body. They cannot give the charge to a medication. Yes, the medication can keep a number. Hemoglobin A1C, below 7. I had a friend who has a PhD in chemistry. He was a diabetic for 20 years. He kept his A1C below 7. And in the end, he was taking 120 units of insulin a day. Did that save his foot? No, he had 3 amputations of 3 of his toes. He developed 3 different cancers. And year and a half ago, he passed away.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Hey, Doc, we got about 30 seconds here. Give us one thing that we can do to extend our life and prevent us from getting diabetes, cancer, heart disease, all the maladies that affect us in the Western world.
The main thing is for each person to be in charge of his her own health.
Love it.
And most of the immune system nutrients, you need 100 different nutrients that can come from vegetables. Concentrate on eating a variety of vegetables.
Are you a vegetarian, Doc?
Those are the 2 keys that take charge of your own body, eat more vegetables.
I love it, Doc. Hey, thanks so much for being on the bright side. It's Dr. John Putalil, his book, Eat, Chew, Live, 4 Revolutionary Ideas to Prevent Diabetes. He's just a... Doc, you took the words right out of my mouth. Everything you said we talk about here on the bright side every day. Thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Best of luck to you, Dr. John Putalil. Thanks for listening to the bright side, friends. I am Pharmacist Ben. Check out our websites, brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, and criticalhealthnews.com for the longevity products. Truth Skin Health products can be had at truthtreatments.com. Have yourselves a wonderful, beautiful, awesome, spectacular day, folks. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye for now.